Hey you guys, welcome back to another video. I am Darian. I have a new message for you guys. This message is not necessarily for everyone. I believe that there's a specific group of people that will be able to identify and connect with this message today. But you're more than welcome to watch. Of course, I cannot control anyway if you watch or not. But I will say that if you are somebody who has been ostracized, maybe cast out, maybe done in a not good way by certain groups in your life, and this could be family, it's not just subject to only family. This could be maybe a close group of friends or people that you have loved and trusted, and you didn't directly do anything to be a villain, or you didn't do anything to really cause these people to ostracize you or to react in whatever way they have reacted. It just kind of is something that has happened in your life. My hope for today is that this video today will give you the encouragement that you need to continue forward with your life, whether you receive the answers or not, and continue to be prosperous and just make the best of what you have been given. So I am going to reference the story of Joseph from the Bible in this video because I believe that there's so much to learn from this story. If you have not read it yourself, I definitely would say that I believe this is a great story because it has so much wisdom, so many different angles that you can learn things about life from it. And also, I believe that this story can help you to open your eyes to how different family dynamics and different things can actually be in life. I feel that a lot of times we have been fed this one way of how all families are supposed to be perfect and everybody in your family is going to love you perfectly and it's just one big happy family story. And yes, that would be great if everyone's life was like that and everyone's family was like that. But the reality is that a lot of people's family situations in life are not like that. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm going to just do like a light paraphrasing of the story and mention the parts that I believe will be helpful to this video because there's a lot of information in this story. Again, so much wisdom and nuggets that I believe a person can receive from this story. So Joseph is somebody who is favored. He is favored by his dad. He is his dad's favorite son. And I believe he's his dad's favorite son because his dad had him in old age. Everybody has their different reasons for why they believe what they believe or do what they do. But also, Joseph had God with him. He was favored by God. So Joseph has this dream, and basically in the dream, it's showing him that he is going to actually be ruling over his brothers and even over his parents. And so Joseph is all happy. He just got this revelation. How many of us have been so happy we just found something out and we run and tell? You know, everybody, even our family, even those closest to us, only to find out that they're not on board with this. They're not on board with what God's plan is for your life, okay? They're not on board with you being at a higher level than they are. They're not on board with you being more blessed than them, are receiving more than them. So in this dream, Joseph is seeing that actually his family is going to be bowing down to him. He's going to be at a higher position than them. So he goes, runs and tells them, and then all you know what breaks loose, okay? So as everything is breaking loose, he ends up finding out that his brothers, they're trying to off him. They're trying to get rid of him. But by God's grace, one of his brothers is like, let's not, basically said something to kind of just make them just basically stress him out, rough him up a little bit. And then he's actually sold off as a slave to another land. So he is forced to leave that family unit that he is used to. He is forced to leave that unit where all his brothers and his parents are at. So of course, already right then and there, I'm sure he's scared. I'm sure he's feeling like I've been plucked up from what I'm used to, and now I'm just in this foreign land, having to fend for myself, having to make a new life for myself. I'm sure he's even thinking that my brothers, all these people are back home. They're all together. They're still, living life as normal. And now look where I'm at. So the fast forward situation, he ends up going through a lot because of, and I can't say that it's just because he said the dream. It could have still, something like this could have still happened, because clearly the hearts of his brother towards him were not good. They just didn't like him, I guess, because this is their brother and this is what they chose to do. But if he had never said this thing, who knows if he would still have ended up in this place, or could have ended up worse at a later time down the line. So as he's in this new place, he's going through so much hardship because of what his brothers did to him. He now is wrongly imprisoned. He's falsely accused at a later time, but because God was always with him, he still had that favor and things still ended up working out for him. And of course, it's still, I'm sure, in his mind, this is unfair. Who wants to be locked up for something that they didn't do? They didn't do anything. They just simply were blessed, and the people around them weren't happy about that. The family around him was not happy about that. But as you may know, in life, them tables, they gonna always turn. So the tables turn, it's time for all of them to reap what they sow. Turns out Joseph, because of the favor on his life and because of his giftings, using his giftings that he's been given, being able to interpret dreams, he used his gifting to get him to where he needed to go. This is why it's so important to be tapped in to your own gifts and what you've been given, so that you can elevate yourself or go to where you're supposed to be with what you've been given. But that's not what this video is about today. His giftings and him just going with the course of life in God's favor get him to a high ranking in Egypt, a high ranking in the land that he is now in, because of the twists and turns of events that started when he was younger, because of what his brothers did to him. So now his brothers, they need foods. Okay, they need him. The very person that they thought they offed, got rid of, that was their family, now they need him. And so they take this trip to the land where now Joseph is. And that's the thing about life. Things really do always end up coming back around. Things do end up coming back around full circle. And you got to be ready to deal with those things. You got to be ready to face those things. I guess if you're not ready, the things are still going to come back around. But now, as it would work out, his brothers actually need him. But his brothers don't recognize him when they finally get to Joseph in his new position, in his new land. Because guess what? Joseph went from those terrible places so now Joseph is decked out. Okay, he got his robe, he got his jewelry, his chains. Joseph, I think he was like the second highest commander in the land, or the second highest position in the land at this point when his brothers came to visit him. So Joseph went from literally the pit where his brothers tried to do what they did to, well, I guess they didn't fully succeed in that, to the palace. And now their mercy is in his hands. Now Joseph could make things go away that is not good, but he has character. He has the heart that God can be pleased with. So his brothers don't even recognize him in this elevated place, in this palace, because he looked good, okay? He looked good. So he did not necessarily at first kind of just be like, oh, my brother is like super nice. But he knew that they were his brothers. He still had that love in his heart for his brothers. So he told them what to do because he wanted to see his younger brother that I believe he was closer with than the other brothers so that he could be reunited. And also, of course, he missed, I'm sure, his dad. He was ripped away from being able to grow up with them and have that relationship with them. So he gives them the directions and the instructions so that they can get the food and everything. They go back home and do what he says and come back so they can eat with him. But there is a point in the story where I believe he allows his brothers to eat in the palace with him. And at this point, Joseph, I believe, steps out of the room and he cries. And I can imagine that he's crying because of all the hurt and the pain of all these years, all the things he's had to go through. I'm sure he has thought about all the time that he lost not being in the presence of his brothers and his father and his other family members, not being able to stay in the home that they were staying in and be able to have the experiences, the freedom that they were able to have in that timing. Imagine all that he feels that he's missed out and what he could have had still being around them and still growing up in that first environment. That it would have been nice if he could have been able to with them, having better hearts towards him. So it ends up being that what they meant for evil for him, all those things that people did towards him for evil, God ended up using it for his good, using it for a greater purpose to help more people in his life. So I want to stay in this space of maybe he was better off without them. Maybe you were better off without those people. And it may sound harsh to some people, but if you actually sit down and think about it, what was in his brother's hearts were not good. If they got to the point to where they tried to take him out and it just by God's grace made it so that he didn't end up being taken out, but his life was rerouted a different way. Imagine if he would have continued growing up with these brothers around this family, because I do believe there was a point where even his dad was like, oh, you think that's gonna be your life? You think I'm gonna be bowing down to you? So imagine him continuing to grow up with people who feel this way about him. Do you really think he would have been able to have as good of a life as maybe it would have seen? And if you listen to the world and how a lot of people think, oh, that's your family, you need to just whatever, I guess let them treat you any kind of way and stick with them. But the reality is, just because you are born into a family does not always mean that that family is going to be there for you, support you, love you, treat you kindly. But maybe there is a reason that you are born in that family, because you are meant to be a change agent for that family, because you are meant to show them a different way. But just because you are meant to do something does not mean that everybody else is going to be on board with what you are meant to do. And some people will go out of their way because of what is hidden in their hearts to try to destroy or harm others. So at that point, you have to use wisdom and know when it's time to exit a situation, or allow the circumstances of life to take you from those situations into a new place. Even if it hurts, even if it makes you sad, even if it makes you wonder what could have been back then, if it is not able to be, do your part that you know you need to do to protect yourself and go in this new way. If you have been given a way out in life that is better for you, go that way. In specific situations, it's not worth waiting around to see what worse could happen or what could have else happened. Again, imagine if after they've just tried to do something so badly to him, just because he told them a dream about where his life was going. Imagine if they've already tried to do that. If he was to go back home and live his life as normal, how awkward would that have been? I'm sure that wouldn't have just been that and now they're trying to come back around and be nice to him. And if so, I'm sure it would have been fake and, you know, just probably just to show off in front of his dad. And it would have been even more of a situation, okay? Even more drama. So even though he was ended up in what may seem like a bad place and was shipped away, at least he didn't have those people to worry about that are his family, that are supposed to love him and care for him. So if you are somebody who is in a situation like this where you just have the hurt and the pain of why were you ostracized, why were you not treated right, but everybody else in the group, everybody else in the family is treated fine, I have found that sometimes it's because of different reasons. And some of the reasons that I have found is that maybe you're somebody who you are called to break these generational curses and these generational things. And a lot of time what's inside of these people, whatever they have been doing for all these years and been allowed to for generation and generation, you're trying to do something different. You're trying to do something better for yourself, and not necessarily to try to rub it in or brag that you're better or this or that. That is not the point in being the one breaking these generational curses. But sometimes the people that are still in that bondage, that are still stuck in those ways, that still feel like the way they're doing things is right, or even if they don't feel that the way that they do things is right, they're used to it. There's a sense of pride. Who wants to admit that they have played a part in destructive behaviors or patterns throughout life or generations? So if you're somebody who is coming and trying to make a difference, or even if it's not necessarily about bloodline, maybe it's just a group of people, maybe you have aspirations to do things a little differently and go a different route, that of course for some people in the group, and maybe even most people or all, will ruffle their feathers, will make them feel like, who are you? Who do you think you are? Now you're gonna come in here and change things and try to make things different and better? Back to Joseph, his brothers and his dad were kind of like, who do you think you are that we're gonna bow down to you? And it still ended up happening. They still had to humble themselves, even though it didn't look as probably, I'm sure, glamorous as it may have came off in how he dreamt it or how he may have thought it because of the dream. It still ended up happening that his brothers had to humble themselves and come before him in order to have food to eat, in order to be able to make it in life. And so that may actually happen for your life, where the same people who ostracized you, the same people who hated on you, and this is not one of those hater messages. This is not that, but the reality may be that they hated on you. The reality may be that they didn't like you, didn't want to support you because of your blessings, because of the favor on your life, because of the ranking of what you may be at or may be doing. You may find that those same people may be coming back to you because, again, them tables gonna turn. So it's only right that the person that you treated poorly and badly, now you get to see them at a greater level, be elevated, or maybe now you need to rely on these people who you doubted and you wished evil on and you wish that they wouldn't prosper. So life sometimes ends up happening like that. But you know, the good thing about that is that you don't have to have the same heart that they had towards you, towards them. Hopefully you allow yourself to go through the processing and get past the things that have happened to you, because you understand that what happened to you was for a greater purpose, and what happened to you did not break you. It did not break you. It did not make you become like the very people who had it out against you. So this is just a word of encouragement to just let you know that maybe you were better off without them. Maybe if you would have continued on in those relationships, in the family relationships, in the friend circle, and whatever the thing was, if you would have continued on, things would not have gone as good as maybe you would have thought it would have, or hoped it would have. Maybe you thought that things could change and get better. Some things you have to accept and just allow life to be life. So I hope that you have a great day. I am ending this video, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye.